it's appealing. You want to know what that rush feels like again.
Yeah.
And then right before I do, I'm like, this is a bad idea. So I just flick that bitch.
Yeah.
I was like, I know what this feeling is,
Yeah. Oh man. So talk to me about how you're doing, bro. What's
So
new? What's like prevalent in your life? What is something that's motivating you right now? I mean, I know you just picked up the book as well.
yeah.
Talk to me about
So
what you've been learning as far as your spiritual life, or.
the book itself, picking up the book, it's really opened up. It's allowed me to open up to many different things, and by getting the book, I can't stress enough. It's allowed me to establish a healthy relationship with myself, right? And that relationship allows me to have a healthy relationship with others. I've been able to experience, I want to say, like a little taste of enlightenment. Like I'm a lot closer to God. I'm a lot closer to friends, family. So it's been an interesting like 2 years.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I was just so isolated. I was in my head a lot,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
in a negative way. Now that in itself has allowed me to create a safe space within my head, so I can be comfortable. I can have conversations without overthinking it.
Yeah.
And and usually when I do have conversations with anybody, I always have in the back of my mind, like I'm talking to, this could possibly be my God, right? My higher power, just trying to either convey something to me, or I need to work on myself. So every interaction that I have, I just remember that, and the book itself, the 12-step book, it it gave me the inspiration that there's hope. And I feel that has been the biggest gift, because I knew that there was a solution to everything that I was going through. Just picking it up, I can recall nobody said pick up this book. They just handed me this like bag and go in this room. So I went to this room and I was like, okay, what do I do now? I picked it up, and from like the very beginning, I started reading, just like tears falling off. I was like, oh my God, there's like a solution. This is relatable to what I'm going through.
Right.
And I just continued reading. So from that point on, I realized that if I wanted to change in my life, I needed to be willing, and I do at times realize that I try to take that control back, and something will like check me, interaction with somebody else. That that in itself has allowed me to cultivate like self-love, and that I can give to somebody else. It's allowed me to cultivate just patience that I can give to somebody else. And it's allowed me to tap into what I feel is my true purpose, right? And it's continue being myself, being loving, being compassionate. So it was, and it was one of those things that I knew I was like sick and tired of being sick and tired to hear this a lot. And it started with that war cry for plea, like, help me God,
Right.
help me get out of this, like I want to stop. And at the same time I was still like actively using. I couldn't stop at that point, so it all was put in front of me, and I had to make that decision to want to continue just actively using and live this life that I was tired of living, to the point where I really didn't care if I would wake up the following day, you know? It was that deep. Um, so I remember praying, and I opened up, social media, and I saw this, like, are you sick and tired of living like this? And I was just crying. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
I am. There's a solution, This guy was like hiking the Appalachian Mountains. I was like, I don't know if I want to take it that far, but I do want to experience what he's experiencing, And I did a little bit of research, which was very minimal. It was just God, very minimal, And I reached out and I called this number, and they're like, how serious are you? I was like, I'm dead serious. And by the end of the conversation, it was more of a, can you get ready in 45 minutes? So once again, I like to say that I had to make that choice, but that choice was already made, I gathered my stuff and went to treatment. Like, I repeat myself, that's where I got the book. I didn't know much about AA. I really didn't. I used to lie and say that I went to AA meetings to just go ahead and use, because like I couldn't stop, and I didn't know how to stop, and like how to deal with the pain. I didn't know how to deal with that, so I continued lying to others and myself. But once I got in there, I was like, okay, this is everything that I've been talking about doing. It's like right here. And I did the detox, and I went to the other side. I forget what it's called, but I did a month there.
The inpatient.
The inpatient. Yeah, I did inpatient, and I got to meet somebody that made a huge impact in my life. Waldo. Yeah. And he would just have us read, and kind of study everything that we were reading. And then, as time got closer to being released, I came up to him and I was like, bro, I think I have that conscious contact with my higher power. And he's like, slow down. You haven't even started the steps. And I was like, well, I'm reading. What does that mean? He's like, no. So, that month, well, 2 weeks before I checked out, I was just praying. The Serenity Prayer, huge part of my routine. What can I do to make sure that I don't fall back into that lifestyle, that I was very comfortable with until I wasn't. And he's like, just get a sponsor. I was like, I don't want a sponsor. I don't want to talk to anybody, He's like, it's important for you to get a sponsor. So I picked up this phone number off the list. I called it. This guy was not as eager as I wanted him to be talking to me, right? So I just said, yeah, I have a sponsor so they can get off my back. And a couple weeks before, no, it was a couple days before I'm going to say a week before I was released or checked out of there. They're like, where do you want to go? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what is there. Like, have you ever thought about sober living? I was like, well, I haven't. What does that include, or what am I looking into? They're like, oh, it's just a bunch of guys living in a house that want to stay sober. I was like, okay, yeah, for sure. And that's how I met Paul. And we talked a little bit, I moved into one of his houses, and that's how I met you. And all I wanted to do is just read. I stuck to that book.
Yeah.
I stuck to that book, and I stick to that book like my life depends on it, And people suggested meetings. Well, let's go to a meeting. Okay, let's go. They're like, do you have a sponsor yet? I was like, no, I'm special. I don't need a sponsor. I don't need somebody to tell me like how to be sober, even though I don't know how.
Yeah.
I can figure it out. I have a book. 2 weeks went by, and Paul's like, okay, this is gonna be your sponsor. His name's Garrett. He's been my sponsor since then, and I'm truly fortunate to have somebody that has been involved in my life in recovery, because it's been helpful. Working the steps was I'm gonna say easy until the fourth step, and that's when things got a little bit dark, got challenging, because I really had to write stuff down that I'd been carrying my whole life, and this backpack that kept getting heavier and heavier, and it wasn't just thoughts, it was a lot of pain that I was carrying, right? So as I try to prolong that, Paul's like, okay, you have 1 more week, or you're gonna find another place, because I can't co-sign this, So not necessarily in those words,
Right,
but basically, So I called Gary, and I was like, how dare you snitch on me not working the steps,
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I think I'm ready, and he gave me the platform to write everything down, and we met. And as it it took a lot of vulnerability to write everything down, and as I was writing that, I perceived that as like the victim, like, poor me, they did this, I'm the victim, how could they? But the more I started to write, I was like, oh, I had a huge part in this. I don't think I'm gonna like this outcome, So I wrote everything down, everything that was on the surface, right? I wrote down first, and then I had to go deeper into like the darker stuff. And I just wrote it down. I was like, what? I mean, I have a lot to lose if I try to hold on to this. And we met, and I read everything, and every single thing. He was like, can you identify your character defect? I was like, it's not about me. He's like, no, you had a part in this. So I was like, okay. So I was able, and it was so true, everything that we came up with, or he was able to tell me my character defects, I can recognize them right away. So that in itself has allowed me to see where I can do better, and then I was like, okay, so if I don't wanna fall back into these character defects, I need like a solid foundation, So then I adapted like the 12 principles, and by adapting the 12 principles, it allows me to be a better version of myself, and it's something that I have to practice. I have to practice every single day. There isn't a day that I don't get challenged or something doesn't get put in front of me. But it's made my life a lot more enjoyable, I can't, well, the fact that my life is going this great, and it's not my will, it's God's will, took a lot to accept. And I just got my 2 year sobriety, right? And my ego was like, where are the balloons? Where's the parade? Where's the chip that nobody else has? Once again, still looking for that external validation.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I know how to do this, right? It was suggested to me. Pray and meditate. And I did, and after that, it allowed me to sit in peace and not look for those material things. So if I ever feel that way, I'm like, okay, let me just meditate. And somebody said it in one of the meetings. He's like, me praying, I'm talking to God. me meditating, I'm listening to God. And at this point in time in my life, I just gratitude. Thank you for allowing me to wake up. Thank you for giving me one more day. And this day I'm gonna treat it like it's my last day. And it's not gonna be extravagant. I'm not gonna go skydiving, but I'm gonna tap into what feels right to me. I'm gonna be patient, be loving, and listen to anybody that wants to talk, because that was also part of my healing journey, you know? Having somebody just listen. And I was able to express my feelings without being judged. That was so healing. And I'm like, I have to pay it forward, you know? Because it did so well for me. At this point, you know, God's given me the opportunity to continue doing that. I co-manage a house. People that are wanting to stay sober, you know, it's a family. We just did Thanksgiving, and there was 50, 60 people in this house. We got to just check in on one another. And at one point, somebody walked by me. They're like, "What are you doing? Are you okay?" I was like, "I'm just taking this in. I'm taking this in, you know," and I'm grateful for that. It's been a gift that I did not think it was going to be this amazing. And now I just sit back, and as long as he gives me one more day, I'm going to do the best that I can to continue doing what I do. And it's fun. Like, I'm able to sit with my thoughts. I'm able to have, I can't stress it, relationships that are so profound. They're not superficial anymore. Like, I genuinely care how you're doing. And the love that I've been able to experience, I was saying about this the other day, the love that I've been able to experience because of this is the truest form of love, because there's no exchange. There's no money exchange. There's no responsibilities. You know, I just love you, and that's how it goes, you know? And it makes me smile, because I've been able to, like, I've been able to experience both, like, on the spectrum, like the darkest side of my thoughts to the most positive side of my thoughts. And in between those two, I had to learn how to manage everything, you know? And it's I'm so eager for what's gonna happen, like hour by hour, because I don't know. I really don't plan it out. Like, if somebody invites me to dinner, let's go to dinner. If somebody wants to go to a meeting, let's go to a meeting. And this lets me go into the past without getting depressed. It gave me the insight of being able to be present at all times. And, like, the future, it really, like, obviously, yeah, I'm saving for my retirement. But whatever's gonna happen tomorrow, like, I'm excited for it, whether it's good or bad, you know, because I know that I have a family, I have a fellowship, I have people that I can just reach out and talk to. Hey, this is what's going on. And the most important is people that are not gonna co-sign nonsense. I feel like that's keeping me accountable, you know. I've been making some financial amends. I'm about to finish one that I've been on for 2 years, and then another one came up. I was like, am I ever gonna catch a break? Oh, no. This is part of it, you know. So knowing that I can continue being the best version of myself day in and day out, and there's a solution to everything that I'm dealing with, it's inspiring. It's motivating.
Yeah.
and then I get to share that with somebody else. I have one sponsee, and he's almost done with the book, and I'm kind of dreading it that it's moving so fast because I'm comfortable, you know.
Right.
But it's time for me to, you know, get somebody else, and I get to I get to share that. Like there's hope. You just have to be willing, be willing. Um, yeah.
Man, that's awesome, dude. I love hearing your story, man. Especially because, like, I was able to witness it, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just like you said, it makes me smile. Just being in this community, having the friends that I have, having the people around me that hold me accountable. All this love, all this gratitude, all this positivity, all the pain as well, all
Yeah.
the growing pains. It's just such a blessing, man, and I'm extremely fortunate uh, because not many people get to witness and experience change in the frequency that we do, I believe. You know, I mean, of course there are people, but they're, you know, being in a recovery program, you see it very often, especially being involved in it, you see it very often, you know, and it's extremely fortunate, and I'm extremely grateful for it because I wasn't always grateful for it, especially in the beginning.
Yeah.
I was so upset that I had to do all these things in order to just have some peace of mind, you know, but then like having the perspective of an outsider, they're like, damn, like you have friends like that care about you, that check in on you, that want to go out to eat with you, that, you know, don't want anything in exchange for that love that they give. And it's a beautiful thing to be a part of. You talked a lot about your journey and doing the 12 steps. So what is one thing in your journey overall, what's something that you have struggled with, and how have you overcome that struggle throughout your journey?
I think imposter syndrome. It's a huge one for me, you know, because I'm living it, and I'm actively working, but when it comes down to it, especially getting like a new sponsee, I'm like, am I even qualified for this? So everything that I've accomplished kind of goes out the window, and my ego is like, no, you're you can do better, you know. So talking to people and letting them know that it's persistent at times, you know. They're like, okay, just write down your accomplishments, you know. And I'm like, oh, you know, I can easily do that. I've been journaling since I've started this. So I'll go back and I was like, okay, I was able to achieve this. I've been able to, you know, make amends. I've been able to be selfless, you know, which is the opposite of what my character used to be. So I'm like, okay, so I am doing the work, so I can be kind to myself. That's been a huge struggle for me, you know, because before really creating that safe space in my own head, I had a lot of doubt, and then going back to it, have you prayed on it? It's not that easy. Yes, it is. Quit complicating things, you know. So I do that. That's been huge, you know. It's allowing me to be of service. That really, whenever I feel that imposter syndrome setting in, it's being of service, you know. And it does say that in the you know book, to be of service, whenever you're feeling down, whenever you're in your head, not necessarily in those words, but that's how I translate it, you know. And it helps out. Like that's been my biggest struggle.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah, because, you know, the biggest misconception of getting sober is that, like, we think that life is just going to get better. you know,
Yeah.
just because you get sober, you know, but it's you have to, now you have to face your problems, you have to
Yeah.
face your emotions, and you have to, like, basically, you have to grow up and you have to
Mhm.
mature. Um, so I always love asking that question and seeing people's perspectives because it's always something different.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's, you know, it's a lot easier, obviously,
Yeah.
having a program,
Oh yeah.
being able to work through that. Um, the emotions, I try, obviously, I try not to hold on to them.
Mm.
I feel them. I try to understand why I feel that way,
Mm.
but I let them go as easily as they come.
Mm. Do you
Um,
want to talk about how you learn that?
um,
Because I
it's
know what you're talking about.
it's been it's been through. There's like three authors that I picked up. Um, it's it's been like Ram Dass. He's a spiritual guru.
Okay.
It's been um, Alan Watts. It's just focusing on the spirituality and understanding your feelings. Um, it's helped me out a lot. It's almost it's almost, well, I don't want to say it's difficult to pinpoint, but like you have to be able to understand why you feel a certain way,
Mm.
you know, and you have to take your emotions. They're valid, you know, but holding on to that, it's just, it's torment, you know. You shouldn't do that. A lot of times, by being able to let go, you can experience, you know, that bliss,
Mm.
that nirvana that we've all have been looking for with substance, you know. And a, a lot of my substance abuse was because I was just holding on to things.
Mm.
I was I was thinking that, well, this is what made me, you know, be who I am. How can I let it go? It
Mm.
was just poisoning myself.
Yeah.
Whether it's anger, jealousy. So being able to validate those emotions, and asking myself, why do I feel this way?
Mm.
You know, and doing the work, asking those hard questions, and then letting go, and then working on that itself
Mm.
has brought a lot of peace. But like I wouldn't have that if I didn't get into, you know, recovery, if I didn't have the big book.
Mm.
And I know that's the beginning of everything for me, you
Mm.
know. um and yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I always. It's always good talking to people that have read those kinds of books.
Hmm.
You know, as far as you know, just spirituality overall,
Spirituality
right?
for sure.
Because there seems to be a common theme with all of them.
Hmm.
At least I've noticed, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And one of the main points is being aware, and we were talking about this earlier, right?
Yeah.
Is being aware of your ego, being aware of that
Absolutely.
inner voice, and who you actually are,
Hmm.
right? Because I'm not Carlos, you're not Nino. We
Hmm.
know that, right? Like
Right.
who I am is the right is the awareness. I am the observer, right?
Yeah.
And it's always it's a trip talking about that, man.
It
Who's
is.
your so
So
what's your favorite? Oh, go ahead.
yeah. So I'm gonna say Eckhart Tolle.
Okay.
Eckhart Tolle really
Yeah.
allowed me to learn how to be present. You know,
Mm-hmm.
be in the now. So I at times I hold off when they're like, you know, who are you?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, how do I respond? Should I respond in a way that they're gonna be able to relate to, or am I gonna sound weird to them by responding the way that I, you know, represent myself?
Mm-hmm.
So I've said I am now,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
and they're like, well, what do you mean? What do you do for a living? Um, well, that's when I'm like, okay, this is probably too much.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll take a step back and I'll identify myself with ways that they are able to understand, you know. Nino, I work for this company. I've been with them for so long. What do you do for fun? I was like, okay, so this is not one of those conversations, you know. And that in itself allows me to live in both worlds, you know.
Yeah.
So it's it's a rarity where you can actually be yourself, but when you can, it makes up for everything else. And that started with reading, you know, Eckhart Tolle and listening to a lot of his lectures, understanding on how to be present, bringing myself back to the now, and then, you know, after that, the spirituality that comes with, you know, practicing certain things. It attracted me to, you know, Ram Dass, and he brought it bit to the basics. Just be loving, you know, be present, be there for somebody as, you know, you want them to be there for you. But now I don't do it to reciprocate that. I do it because it feels right, you know, whether I get something back out of it or not.
Right.
And then, you know, Alan Watts, he simplifies things with a little bit of like malice, like, you know, you have to be in this terrestrial place, right? And you have to live in it. So learn how to live in it, but still not lose yourself. And
It's like adapt, but
yeah, adapt to it. Go with the flow.
right.
Go with the flow with whatever is going. The biggest thing that I'm practicing right now is go with the flow of things. I think I said some. It just came to my head yesterday to you.
Yeah.
We're at a meeting. I was like, yeah, it's like we're in this big parkour like field, you know, and we're just trying to find our flow to be able to move through every obstacle that life gives us. And that stuck to my head, you know. I was like, that's pretty clever. Like, you know, because there's always going to be challenges,
Right,
always. And how are you gonna perceive this, you know? And it's one of those things that, like, what it gives me excited for tomorrow, and it gets me excited for like the next 2 hours, which I can tell you that I didn't live in the present. I was always in the past. I was always in the future, and that's where a lot of my anxiety and depression came from. You know, so once I looked at my past, and it's also allowed me to look at my past and be grateful for it. You know, everything, and it sounds cynical, but if somebody was to say, if you can do everything again, will you change anything? I would say no. Like all the hurt and the dark places that I was at in my head, and, you know, people, places, and things that I put in, I would do it again because this is where I'm at right now. You know, and that in itself allowed me to understand my past. You know, it allowed me to like forgive myself for situations, forgive others, you know, and it's amazing how great things are. I can't stress it enough.
Yeah.
Like if there is a solution, you know, and yeah, my story doesn't have, you know, a lot of relapses, and my story doesn't have prison. So I had to accept that too. That was hard because, you know, the community, there's a lot of that. And like, once again, my imposter syndrome is like, are you even supposed to be here? Like, what are you doing? You don't know. And I was like, no. The journey that was meant for me, I'm in it right now. And I need to be present because this is what was dealt for me. And I try to just get on the like passenger side. I'm like, okay, you know, this is what you want me to do. I don't want to do this right now, but if it's gonna help me stay, you know, connected to my fellowship, I'm gonna do it, you know. So it's beautiful.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome. I absolutely love that, and that's such a beautiful place to be at.
Yeah.
It really is. It's very valuable. Um, yeah, it's just a beautiful place to be at. A couple of, I think it was like a month ago,
Mm-hmm.
I read something in my morning meditation, and it said, and it stuck with me.
Yeah.
It said, the way I thank God is by appreciating the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, damn.
So
You know?
true.
And it's like,
So true.
yeah, I'm just always, like, because even in sobriety, I'm always living in the future.
Yeah.
I'm always thinking about what I said to whoever, like, the other day. You know, I'm thinking, morbidly reflecting, and in a way, I'm trying to change these things in my mind,
Yeah.
right? And I'm trying to look at them in a different way than how it actually happened. And in a way, I'm trying to manipulate the way people see me. You know, it goes deep, but it's like that doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Like what matters is
It's
right
now.
here, right now, and
Yeah.
there's no other place to get closer to God or to thank God than right now.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly.
And it's such a beautiful place to be at, you know. But what's the biggest inspiration that you've received throughout your journey, whether it be from a book, from a person, from a mentor, from a quote? I know you probably have a whole bunch. I see you post all the time.
I can.
Or the most recent one.
The most recent one is just the most recent. Actually, it's all of them tied into one. You know, is if life is gonna be this good now, continue doing this, right? And it's inspirational because it's like I didn't know anything else. And that in itself keeps me grounded. Being part of something bigger than myself, surrendering to God, you know, understanding what that meant, and just staying positive. There's so much like spiritual things that I expose myself to, and it all comes down to a couple things: is being grateful, you know, staying positive, being the now, and talk to everybody as if you're talking directly to God.
That's good.
And that keeps me from having to go back and try to replay conversations, because I'm very mindful, you know, how would I want my God to perceive me? How would he, you know? And it's those things that I wish I had a little bit more control over my thoughts, you know, because I know that, you know, God is in your thoughts as well. But I'm working on that. Because it does have a ripple effect, you know. But the inspiration is continue living this life to the fullest. Continue to surround myself in this fellowship, and that's it. I mean, right now that is it. But things will change in the next hour.
Always.
You know, and am I gonna be capable of dealing with that? Absolutely. You can tell me the most terrible news in the world, but I have a solid fellowship. I have somebody that I can reach out to, you know, that I have to go through those emotions, but I don't have to hold on to them. And that I'm just like, okay, whatever you got next, like bring it, you know.
Man, that's awesome, man. So you mentioned talk to me a little bit about your relationship with God. How is it, and How has it fluctuated, if it has, throughout your journey?
So I give you a little bit of just story about that. Definitely, I experienced everything that Catholicism had to offer.
Yeah.
Being in Mexico and getting to the U.S., that detachment happened, because I wasn't actively going to church. So I knew that I was missing a piece. But as you're in your teens, you tend to lose sight of that, because other things become more important, girls, being popular, having a car. And then after that, it's, it's family, it's career. It becomes, and that void that I had, I started to fill it with material things, and every once in a while we would go to just try a different church, and every time we would go to that church, like, I would weep. I was like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be, because I love that energy, right? And I knew that I didn't, I lost sight of how close God has always been, right? So what really stuck out to me is during the darkest times or the heaviest parts of like addiction, that prayer, that you really mean, that you say from like the pit of your stomach, and you don't think anybody's listening, you know and then all of a sudden he started to just be more present, like, oh, you want help with doing this, and he would put things in front of me, and that relationship started the way that I wanted to start, right? So I kept him at bay still. I once I started praying, obviously it was more of a, let me have this, keep my family safe. I need this, I need that. And all of a sudden, as he started to give me the things, I felt very like selfish. I was like, the only time that I reach out to you is when I want things. You know? Why is it? Why is it that everything is based on a want? Why do I continue having this relationship with you based on wants? And then all of a sudden I started to change that, like, okay, my kids are healthy, the people in my past life, they're okay. So I started saying thank you. And the relationship with my God is at a place that it's never been. If there's anything that I ask him for, a lot of clarity. Thank you for giving me clarity today. It has gotten stronger and stronger. I constantly talk to him. I talk to him the way that I'm like talking to you right now.
That's the most genuine way.
Because it is like, I can't. I know that he's always listening, and I know that he's always there. So now it's, thank you for giving me the opportunity to live a new life. Thank you for, the simplest things, like the roof over my head, for the people around me in sobriety, for their health. Thank you for allowing this person to reach out when they needed help, Thank you for giving me peace of mind. Thank you for removing this obsession that I had. Thank you for allowing me to let go of the past. Thank you for allowing me to be thankful for my past.
Yeah.
And it keeps getting stronger and stronger to the point where, like, I know that there's a lot of suffering. I feel it at times, and I was like, if I can take on their suffering so they can experience what I feel, let me have it. And I have to be careful because it has happened sometimes. And I go back into, okay, thank you for allowing me to experience that. You know, please watch over them. Please give them the opportunity you gave me. And going back to gratitude. So it keeps, it manifests itself in so many different ways. And now I look at things and I'm like, oh my God, this is an extension of you. And I love you, you know, and I have to continue being that way. Not necessarily have to, it's like I want to. Like if I don't do that, it just doesn't feel right anymore, you know? And then there's those off days, and those off days I just meditate because I know there's like something coming, there's a message coming, you know, and it manifests itself that way. So it's a lot stronger than what it used to be because I've learned to kind of let it happen, you know, and it's wonderful. It really is.
It is, man.
So it's one of those things that I understand that a lot of people have an issue with that. And it's very simple, just, you know, having an understanding of what you're God, you know, and just start praying. Like, he's always listening. He's always listening. Just reach out. He might not give it what you want, you know. That was like the difficult to accept. Like, well, I'm sober now. Give me the things that I used to have back. No. But I'm going to give you this. And those things are they're more meaningful.
Right, yeah.
Because I don't take them for granted anymore, you know? And I'm grateful, for sure.
Yeah. Man, dude, I love having conversations with you, man. You have, ever since the beginning, when I met you, you just always had like this gentle soul about you. You know, just going with the flow, you know, being aware, being conscious, being in the now, and it's just like you feel it. At least I do, right? Like being around you, you just feel the gentleness and the purity, yeah, man, I'm extremely grateful. I'm grateful for you, man. You know?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, man. So I wanted to say that, man. So yeah, before we end, is there anything that you feel that we haven't discussed that you wanted to? Any words of inspiration? Anything that's heavy on your heart?
It's I'm gonna keep repeating this. Like, there's a solution, right? And you have to be willing. You have to be willing. Whether it's through the gift of desperation, or you just want to know what life is all about, right? There's a solution to this. Get familiar with people that are in recovery. You don't have to like go head in first, you know. Test it out, and you're gonna realize that the people in recovery are happy and they love their life, you know. And for me, it was the fear of not living my life to the fullest potential, realizing that if it was just about substance abuse and material things, I was done, you know. But it's more than that. It's the connections that we're intended to have with one another. It's the love that we're supposed to be. I think if you allow it, it comes natural. Just giving that love that you feel in your heart to another human being. And there's gonna be times where I'm gonna use me as an example. I was so afraid of not really liking the person that I was gonna be sober, right? But that's the person that I fell in love with. That relationship that allows me to have significant relationships with others, you know. I look forward to meeting new people. And yeah, I'm an extrovert. Sorry, introvert.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, introvert. And I had to practice to just step out of my shell, you know.
Same.
But it's well worth it.
Mm.
It's well worth it, especially if you have great intentions. And obviously, there's gonna be people in this timeline. They're gonna have a totally different picture of me, right? And I had to accept that as well. I really did. And I had to make peace with that. And it's only because I made that difficult decision of just starting all over again, you know? And I almost felt my ego right now saying I made that decision. That decision was made for me. I just had to be willing, you know? And that's it. Just there's a way, there's a solution. There's people that care, and we don't want anything in return besides your well-being. And that's it.
That's such a trip, man. That's so beautiful as well. You know, but it is a trip, man. Like it was so far from what I knew before. You know, that love and compassion, just like we were talking about before, and just being able to talk with someone that fully understands what you went through and your pain, is it's such a blessing, you know. But yeah, man, thank you for doing this with me.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure. Yeah, it's an honor, honestly.
Yeah. No,
I admire you.